to all the dispossessed youth of Africa, for perpetuation of communion with ancestral spirits through the fight for African freedom, and in the firm faith that the dead, the living, and the unborn will unite to build the destroyed shrines.
Hello and welcome, beloveds, to another episode of Wake Up Africa. My name is Dr. Mumbi. How you doing? How's everything going? Africa is awakening at a rapid rate. It's absolutely amazing, family, to see it happening, to feel it energetically, you know, on the mother continent and just across the globe. Our group consciousness as a melanated people is shifting. But you see, we need to recognize the most important thing is the narrative. And to recognize the reason we're not in the narrative, Asia isn't in the narrative, Latin America isn't in the narrative, is because all of them don't have a major news agency. There's no major global African news agency. There's no major Latin American news agency. There's no major Asian news agency, although they've started. China and India have kind of started. India with WION. They tried with at least the Arabs, they have Al Jazeera, whatever, although it's, you know, many complications, but we don't have our voice. And that's why we are overridden by other people's narratives, especially narratives of us. But what we're seeing is that as Babylon collapses, family, the Mzungu is trying as hard as possible to reawaken certain narratives or to re-entrench certain narratives. And this story actually says so much about what the Mzungu is doing in their own homes than it really says about the school. And of course, this happened in the divided states, where a North Carolina school actually had a mock slave auction where the white students sold the black students, you know, and a parent actually came out and condemned the school after her son and his fellow black students were sold at a mock slave auction by their white classmates. This is according to reports. And she actually took to Facebook. I'm telling you, this is where our voices are, family. She actually took to Facebook about what had happened, the shocking incident, and, you know, at Waters School in Goldston. Oh, they even exposed the school, which has like 195 students, 68% of whom are Mzungu. Beloveds, what happened to homeschooling? Seriously, how do you even send your children to such an environment? So they, you know, she said, you know, our son experienced a slave auction by his classmates. And when he opened up, we were made aware that this type of stuff seems to be the norm. So much so that he didn't even think it worth sharing. His friend went for $350 and another student was a slave master, a Mzungu, because he knew how to handle them. When we have, you know, we even have a video of students harmonizing the N-word. Since when were children so blatantly racist? Why is this culture acceptable? So her Facebook post went wild, and, you know, and she even said, you know, parents, teach your children that this behavior isn't okay, because it's what they're learning in their homes. It's what they're, you know, and there's a whole movement of white supremacy, beloveds, from Ukraine to across the world, neo-Nazi vibes that are happening. And I mean, it's great that she shared this, but why is your son in that school to begin with? Like, that's the question I would ask you as a, why is he even there? If this is the norm, so he didn't want to share? And it shows you, beloveds, the narrative and how critical the narrative is. Because the white supremacy narrative, which is what has shackled all of us, colonized and enslaved all of us, they are doing everything to reinforce themselves, even though they know it's a new world. They're starting their new chapter with this same training. It's not even just about this. It's like, what kind of ritual? This is a ritual, beloveds. This is not a mock slavery just happening like that. They learn something at home and then they come and do this ritual. People underestimate how the wizardry that is behind white supremacy, which is what gave it supremacy. And you know, this thing went viral. It happened like a week ago, beloveds. The North Carolina superintendent had to come out and apologize. They tried to say it didn't happen in a classroom environment. No teacher was present. So, you know, just pushing the blame to the student. And he says, such actions such as these, they just do not reflect who we are as a school system. Blah, blah, blah. Although the Mzungu who was caught as a slave master only got 1 day suspension. Like, don't expect justice in a narrative that is against you. Close out that narrative from your life. Like these things, if you want to look at it from their perspective, it's to reinforce that WS mentality in their own children so they can have that energy of a slave master and carry it forward, move in that energy. That's the whole vibe. Like, because when you meet Mzungus, they feel superior. They feel superior because they've been taught they're superior. Narratives, 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 family. And then we allow them to put this narrative in our children because this does more damage even for our young black men who have to be the slaves in this mock slave auction. What do you think that does for their brain? What effect do you think that has, family? A mock slave auction where he sold 350, I mean, it's insulting. And then they're harmonizing the N-word. Nah. They're trying to put, this reality has fallen. So if you're still in it, you're totally to blame. If you're putting your children in it, you're totally to blame. There are now options. There are different narratives coming out there. If you're not doing the work to get you out of this narrative, you're lazy. Because there's no excuse the damage that is being done. And so you need to check with your children what kind of narrative you're doing. Because you may feel like you're out, you know, you escaped. But what about your children and the situations you're putting them in? There's some decisions you're taking for your children as their guardians that are putting them, that are keeping them in that slavery and colonized mindset, even though we're in a brand new earth and a brand new reality. Because in this story, it's not even about the Mzungus. It's about the African parents who have allowed their children to be in this environment and been unaware. This is the norm. Have been unaware that this is going on. They're the ones to blame, beloveds. And these are the ones who are going to fall with the Babylon system. Because the spirit of the global melanated people, of the sun people, of the children of the soil is not accepting this kind of stuff anymore. So if you're putting yourself in this kind of energy, the spirit of your people, the God of your people won't recognize you. They'll overpass you because you have bowed to the Babylon system and you will fall with Babylon. Those are the times we're in. It's not, oh my God, this happened. It's like, how are we even in that narrative to begin with when it's a new earth? Tuko pamoja.